American history is filled with outstanding presidents, but alongside them, there are those who make us wonder why they ever stepped into the White House. If you ever thought that being president was just about sitting in a chair and waving, these 9 figures will make you reconsider. They managed to turn the most powerful position in the world into a parade of poor decisions, from political blunders to managing the country as a joke. Now, join some insights as we look back at the memorable achievements of the 9 worst presidents in American history who turned the most powerful role in the world into a series of unforgettable disasters.
Herbert Hoover once stayed here on this floor.
The vacuum guy?
No, the president.
Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, ranks 9th in the list of the worst White House occupants in history. He was notorious for his poor communication skills, particularly his lack of empathy for those heavily affected by the 1929 economic crisis. Hoover's policies and strategies were sometimes unclear or inconsistent. This led to confusion and a lack of understanding about the steps the government was taking to address the crisis.
Mention the name Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, and you probably think Great Depression.
When the Great Depression struck, Hoover tried many measures to rectify the situation, but none were effective. It is not wrong to say that he turned the Depression into the Great Depression by sparking trade conflicts. Hoover believed in a laissez-faire economic policy, emphasizing that the economy would self-correct without much government intervention. He thought that strong government intervention could worsen the situation. He also opposed providing direct relief to the public, which led to criticism for not meeting the urgent needs of people during the crisis. Additionally, his prohibition policy, which banned the production and sale of alcohol, faced strong opposition. Moreover, American voters lost confidence in his ability to lead the country forward due to his adherence to conservative principles and poor communication skills. These were the reasons he lost his bid for a second term in the White House to President Roosevelt. John Tyler was the 10th president of the White House and is considered a fluke because he was the first person in history to assume this highest office from the position of vice president. Although he made some contributions, there are several factors that lead him to be considered one of the less successful presidents. As a senator, he began his political career by opposing the federal plan to tax high-income earners. However, things changed once he became the president. He acted contrary to his previous statements. As a result, the entire cabinet under the late President Harrison resigned, forcing him to struggle to maintain his position and establish a new cabinet. Tyler's term lacked many significant reforms, and he was ineffective in addressing major national issues such as banking problems and territorial expansion.
Sorry, Henry. I was opposed to this bill because I didn't believe the federal government had a right to force this type of national bank on the states.
His decision to annex Texas also faced much criticism.
You were clearly not a team player, so that's why we decided to expel you from the party.
Difficulties in working with Congress and a lack of consensus on his policies diminished the effectiveness of his administration.
The name. Why does it make people laugh?
Because it's an odd name.
I think people chuckle at Millard. It's just a weird name.
It's the Millard more than the Fillmore.
I think so.
I think it's a combination. Fillmore, I mean, it sounds like a gasoline tank.
It sounds like a sack of potatoes.
Ranking 7th is the 13th President of the United States, Milard Filmore, who came to power due to the death of the then-current President Zachary Taylor after just over a year in the White House. One of his significant mistakes was endorsing the Fugitive Slave Act in the 1850 Compromise. Although it temporarily eased tensions, it also reinforced slavery and caused considerable controversy. when he signed the law allowing the federal government to return escaped slaves to their owners. This act became a precursor to the bloody Civil War in the U.S.
Who wrote a book about Millard Filmore?
Yes, he's got 7 away from and I hope my book puts it back where it belongs in the bottom 5.
Furthermore, he did not demonstrate vision or a positive influence, leading to a lack of lasting impact or improvements on the country's significant issues. President Richard Nixon was a pathological liar who was mostly concerned with himself and his own legacy.
What were Nixon's greatest accomplishments? What were his greatest challenges? And what were his greatest failures?
The accomplishments Richard Nixon achieved as the 37th President of the United States are undeniable. He was a very intelligent man who accomplished many good things such as plus laying the groundwork for building relations between the U.S. and China, plus negotiating a strategic arms reduction treaty with the Soviet Union, and establishing the Environmental Protection Agency EPA. However, during his presidency, he dragged the world's leading power into the quagmire of the Vietnam War, despite having campaigned on a promise to end the war in Vietnam. Nixon secretly bombed and used cancer-causing chemicals in Vietnam and Cambodia. He also controlled wages and prices, which was disastrous for the economy. Furthermore, to suppress the anti-war movement and the opposition Democratic Party, the Nixon administration conducted political espionage. PNC office in the Watergate Building, Washington. This is considered the worst and most unacceptable action for an American president, leading to his resignation. Consequently, it became a stain that tarnished his name in American history. Warren G. Harding is ranked 5th among the worst and most foolish U.S. presidents for his statement, "I am not suited for this office and should never have been here."
That he didn't want to be president or that he didn't have the self-confidence to do it. He did want to be president.
Harding was condemned for appointing many of his friends to his corrupt inner circle. Many of them got into trouble for bribery in the Teapot Dome scandal. This scandal involved public oil reserves being granted to private companies without public bidding. He was not insightful in that he seemed to let all of his corrupt friends make every decision. Additionally, he seemed to lack a moral compass, frequently deceiving his wife, hosting parties, and engaging in illegal gambling at the White House. He also smuggled large quantities of alcohol during Prohibition. It is not wrong to say that Harding preferred socializing and partying over working. President Franklin Pierce is also believed to have been one of the people who ignited the American Civil War.
Because he played a major role in bringing on the Civil War.
There's no.
When elected as the 14th president, the handsome Mexican war veteran was zealous in controlling the issue of slavery. He was a strong supporter of the Missouri Compromise of 1820, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. These were some of the worst laws in American history dealing with the issue of slavery. In the North, the wave of support for abolition was growing stronger. Meanwhile, Southerners saw no fault in slavery and fought vigorously to maintain the institution. Pierce agreed with waging war against Spain if it refused to sell Cuba to the United States, as Pierce wanted to annex Cuba as a slave state. This pleased the Southerners. Therefore, at a difficult time when the country needed to be unified, Pierce made the nation even more divided. The people needed a pragmatic and more proactive president, but he failed to deliver. Many historians judge that Pierce was incapable of facing the challenges of the era and lacked effective policies to prevent the escalation of regional conflict. But do you know who was worse?
Andrew Johnson.
He is one of the top 10 U.S. leaders voted as the worst president in history, primarily due to his excessive ego and focus on his own legacy and interests. His stubbornness was evident in politics. While Abraham Lincoln led the Civil War with the goal of emancipating slaves and rebuilding a unified America, Johnson, a Southerner, decided to side with white people in the southern states. He agreed to abolish slavery, but paid no attention to the rights of people of color, specifically opposing the civil rights of African Americans. Johnson was never willing to compromise, and seemed always obstinate when faced with opposition. He was a proponent of white supremacy. For Johnson, the idea of granting rights to people of color was distant, and he did everything possible to limit their rights. He fought against the 14th and 15th Amendments as well as the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which aimed to protect the rights of newly freed people of color. This hindered African Americans across generations and made him notoriously special. Moreover, Johnson was the first president in U.S. history to be impeached by the House of Representatives. He was accused of abusing his power by dismissing Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton, a supporter of Reconstruction, without Senate approval. America is still paying the price for Andrew Johnson's mistakes, said Professor Emeritus Michael LeBenedict of Ohio University.
America has had its share of crooks, Warren G. Harding, Richard Nixon, bigots, Andrew Jackson, James Buchanan, and incompetents, Andrew Johnson, George W. Bush. But never before Donald Trump have we had a president who combined all these nefarious qualities.
Position number 2, Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, a position he likely views as a personal title, much like a trophy from a reality TV show. With a unique leadership style, he has generated a series of impressive events that have made the world shake its head. Trump is the only president to be impeached twice, plus the first impeachment, 2019, was for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Specifically, Trump was accused of pressuring Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate his political rival Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. During the investigation, Trump not only refused to cooperate, but also obstructed Congress's efforts to gather evidence. Although the House of Representatives voted to impeach him, the Republican-controlled Senate acquitted him in the trial. Plus, the second impeachment, 2021, was for incitement of insurrection. Specifically, after losing the 2020 presidential election, instead of conceding defeat, gracefully, Trump repeatedly made unfounded claims of election fraud. This culminated in a speech where he incited his supporters to storm the Capitol to prevent the certification of the election results, leading to 5 deaths and causing panic throughout Congress. But like the first time, the Senate acquitted him. In addition, Trump is known for his role as an independent scientist during the COVID-19 pandemic. He once suggested that injecting bleach into the body could help kill the virus, a truly creative idea. Along with ignoring expert health recommendations, his handling of the pandemic worsened the situation.
We're not terrorists. We're hard-working people, and I work harder than Trump.
With such a glorious list of achievements, it's no surprise why Donald Trump is often mentioned as an exceptionally memorable president in ways no one expected. And does everyone know who the worst president in U.S. history is? Stay tuned to find out. James Buchanan? That's right. If there were a club of unsuccessful leaders, Buchanan would likely be an honorary member. According to historians, Buchanan is considered the worst president in U.S. history due to his weakness, passivity, poor leadership abilities, and allowing America to sink into depression. He took office after Pierce, amidst rising tensions over slavery, with northern states opposing slavery and southern states staunchly defending it. But instead of learning from Pierce's mistakes, this 15th president chose to avoid the issue. He believed the problem would resolve itself over time, in a kind of just sit back and hope manner, which made the country increasingly divided. Additionally, he continued to support the decision in the Dred Scott case, where the Supreme Court ruled that black people could not become citizens and Congress had no power to ban slavery in new territories, one of the worst Supreme Court decisions in U.S. history. He supported the South to the extent of allowing them to do whatever they wanted. Buchanan did almost nothing to prevent Southern states from leaving the Union during his term. 7 Southern states declared secession. This is like seeing your house on fire, but refusing to call the fire department, thinking that maybe the fire will go out on its own. As a result, the secession crisis became uncontrollable, and by the time he left office, America was on the brink of civil war, with the Union falling apart. Buchanan even said himself, "If I am remembered, I will be remembered as the one who let the country fall apart." James Buchanan may have thought that by doing nothing, he would avoid making big mistakes. But unfortunately, this inaction turned out to be his greatest mistake. It is not wrong to say that Buchanan was a White House occupant who heated up tensions and pushed the United States closer to the brink of civil war.
Sir? Oh no. Go away. Not the curtain again, Mr. President. I'm not here. Buchanan.
We have together explored the most regrettable U.S. presidents in history, individuals who made us question whether decisions could be worse. Although they are not the leaders we would dream of, it is from their mistakes that we can learn valuable lessons about leadership. So let us thank them for giving us the opportunity to avoid repeating these unfortunate errors in our work and lives. Thank you for joining Sim Insights on this journey filled with lessons, even if they are lessons no one wished for.